Hello, and welcome back to the Share Parenting channel and podcast. This episode is brought to you by Facebook's version of TikTok Reels, I think it's called, or maybe that's Instagram. I don't know. The little short form videos, right? So this mom posted and she said, I'm just going to kind of share with you the shit show of a day we had to make you feel better, right? Totally fair. Love that kind of content, honestly, because we do need to know that it's not just us. We need to know that it's normal to have bad days and hard days and that we're not alone. And while social media has made it possible to connect with people all over the world, which is super, super cool, it's also replaced some of the close to us genuine connection. It's encouraged us to put up a front and have an image to project as opposed to just sort of living our real life. And in that way, it's actually isolated quite a few people. I guess I can't say whether it's a majority or not, but enough that it matters, right? So her video got cut off, which is sort of what prompted me to want to pop in and add my 2 cents, I suppose. So her video essentially was, I had the kids home from school for whatever reason. It wasn't planned. And we tried to make the best of it. We went and got cupcakes and we went to the park and we did all this stuff. And like, even still, my 4-year-old had the most absolute outrageous epic meltdown. And she's screaming and kicking and flailing and tried to pull my hair. And I lost my shit. And I feel so bad when I do that. Like, I can't seem to remember in the moment, she's 4. She can't control her emotions. And I want to be the safe person, but I was so angry. And so I'm screaming at her. She's already screaming. And it was just awful. Right. And that's kind of all she got to. And so I would love to think that this message will get to her. But if not, I know for a fact that there are many of us who have had an experience like this. She did say that, if I had seen a kid behaving like this before I had children, I would have judged them so hard, right? So even that is a super common experience. So there's a couple pieces I want to touch on. One is that if you did not have a safe adult to co-regulate with when you were a child, then your brain did not have the opportunity to develop the neural pathways of regulation, right? So she described, how can I expect them to keep their cool when I can't keep my cool? And I love that reminder and I love that phrase because I have used it myself to kind of keep myself in check and have realistic expectations. But what's interesting about it is that sometimes there's an expectation tied to that you just keep your cool. There's no just about it. It is a very complex, multi-layer, multi-sensory experience to achieve and maintain regulation. There is no just. There's no stubborn will. That's not what it's about, right? And I think we need to talk about that. If you're thinking, well, if I'm the parent and I'm mature and I've got my shit together, then I just stay calm. No freaking wonder it's hard. You don't have any of the tools. You're expecting yourself to be able to build a house, right? The skill set of regulation. You're expecting yourself to be able to build a house with like a toothpick. You show me one contractor that can do that. It's not possible. So with that said, what does it look like to have a full toolbox, right? When I begin coaching with somebody, some of the first conversations that we have are about their childhood. This isn't to like blame and shame and point fingers and create an emotional state that's uncomfortable. We're only going to go as deep as you feel comfortable going. What it does do, though, is it allows us to acknowledge the reality of gaps. Most of us have gaps in the areas of co-regulation. When we were dysregulated, we were punished for being dysregulated. We were isolated for being dysregulated. We were sometimes physically harmed for being dysregulated, all with the idea that it would, quote unquote, teach us to control ourselves. But literally no one knew how to teach us how to control ourselves. So the expectation was control yourself. But the process of teaching you step by step what that is didn't exist. And quite frankly, our parents weren't controlling themselves either. So they didn't have the skills to teach us how to control ourselves, how to stay regulated, how to become regulated again once we have become unregulated, right? And it leads to situations like this, where we're gritting our teeth and we're holding on and we're, by our fingernails to the last tendrils of our self-control, and then we lose it. And we don't even know what happened. And we feel so bad. And we know that we just acted like a 4-year-old, but what the heck, right? It feels so out of control, and that's normal. It is normal to feel that level of frustration and irritation and out of control and reactiveness until you understand it, until you have the skills. Now, I can't teach you all of the skills forever, because there's always ever evolving ones, but I certainly can't address it all in one video or one podcast. What I will tell you is that you need to learn how to become the observer of your thoughts, right? You are separate from what your brain is thinking. A tremendous amount of overwhelm comes from what we are thinking about the situation more than the situation itself, right? And I can point to that in the video. Again, no judgment, literally do this myself, still frequently, even knowing this, okay? Last time my husband caught me on it. But, we tried to make the best of it. And I took them to the park and I got them cupcakes, right? You're stacking evidence that it shouldn't be this way, right? You have proof that this is a reaction that they should not be having. Problem with our shoulds is it gets in the way. It creates resentment. When we're feeling resentful, there is a should hiding somewhere in our thoughts that we need to address. How? Oftentimes I will say, it says who. Sometimes I will disprove the should. In this case, I would disprove the should. Okay. You have a 4-year-old. Their normal schedule is already thrown off. That's a reason to be dysregulated. They got cupcakes, likely had sugar, likely had food dyes. That can be dysregulating. Not for a lot of kids, they can eat the sugar just fine. We have a pancreas, we can make insulin, but it creates a really fast spike and then a crash. So by the time you're home, if their blood sugars crash down and they haven't had other things to kind of balance it out, proteins and fats and stuff, they may well feel cruddy, right? And you see that in emotional reactivity. That's a huge assumption. I have no idea what kind of cupcakes this mom got her kid. I go get my kids gluten-free, dye-free, very low sugar protein donuts, because those are the only ones in the city that they can eat because they're allergic to food dyes and they're highly sensitive to gluten. And they don't have that problem because it's really more of like a protein-rich snack than a donut. They're just called donuts, they're in the shape of donuts, but they really kind of aren't. As far as cupcakes, who knows? And everybody's level of sensitivity to food dyes is different. My kids are exceedingly reactive. So that's an assumption on my part. That doesn't mean mom did anything wrong. Okay. It just means that it could be a contributing factor. We also went to the park. If that video is timestamped today, we're in August. Do you know how hot it is mostly everywhere in the United States right now? Okay, it's like over 100 degrees. That's a lot. It's a lot of sensory stimulation. We've got a third reason now for dysregulation. So we have a change in expectation, which is the actual cause of tantrums and meltdowns in toddlers. They have an expectation that's suddenly not met and it freaks out their brain. It's like biological. It's really cool. We're able to see it in brain scans now. That already happened. And potentially ingesting stuff that puts some extra stress on the body. Super fun in the moment, but can have, some side effects later that we want to be aware of, just so we are expecting it. We're like, they're probably going to crash later. We'll rest, or we'll take a nap, or, maybe they'll have a meltdown and I will get through it with them, but I'm expecting it. So it's not shocking to my system, because we work the same way. If our expectations are not met, what the heck, right? And even just depending on what that kiddo ate in the day, who knows what they ate for breakfast. If they didn't eat much for breakfast and then they had a cupcake, like for me, my belly will hurt just because of the one-sidedness of that portion. It's like higher in sugar and maybe even fats, but there's like not a balance to it for my body, right? I don't know where this kid's at, but I do know that I've seen that circumstance lead to meltdowns a lot of times over the past 8 years. So it's something I'm going to mark as a potential reason why, yeah, she should be melting down. Then you have the heat and being outside, which can be very overstimulating, can be very regulating, but it can also be overstimulating. Now, we don't know what happened at the park. Maybe she got in a fight with her sister. Maybe she played in the splash pad and now her clothes are wet. And the whole way home, she's wanted to peel them off and she's so agitated at this point, right? We don't know. But the point is, there is a laundry list of reasons why she absolutely should be melting down. Now, it's not so threatening, right? So arguing with the shoulds really helps us to gain control of our reaction. Okay. All of that's very cognitive. That's not happening when your cognitive is offline. Okay. When you are really dysregulated, there's the primitive part of your brain and there's the self-control part of your brain. If that self-control part is flipped, there's no self-control, right? We're watching that happen with our daughter. And our mirror neurons are picking up on that. We are sensing threat because our neuroception is going, see, she's freaking out. Where's the threat? What's going on? We'll start to try to make that story make sense. There must be a threat, right? And if we're not detecting the threat, that can trigger feelings of being stupid. It can triggers feelings of feeling out of control, feeling like we might be missing something, feelings of inferiority, right? All of these things that kind of come up in us, which then lead to our own dysregulation. We want to escape these feelings, right? So step 2 is to learn. Step 1 was to get really good at observing your thoughts. What is occurring inside of your brain while your body is getting ready to fight? What is happening that's contributing to this dysregulation? The more you get good at identifying those thoughts, the more you separate from those thoughts, the more you get your control back, right? The second part is getting really good at observing your body. Where do you feel tension in your body? For a lot of us, there's a jaw tension, clenching our teeth. Counteract that by opening your mouth. Breathing, great. It's one of the only automatic systems in our body that we actually can control. You can't like tell your heartbeat but beat slower, but you can slow down your breath. But also that release and opening of your jaw, releasing that tension, helps to signal to your brain that you're not in as much danger as it thinks you are. Okay, some of us, it's our hands. We start to ball our fists. Usually it's both, right? Release. Soft hands, floppy hands even. Just, right, sitting there, and it seems kind of silly, right? But you're releasing energy. There's energy in your body. Your brain got a message to fight. So now there's adrenaline, there's cortisol, there's norepinephrine, there's all these things in your body, like gearing up. You're going to fight a tiger. 4-year-olds aren't tigers. So we're going to let it out. For some of us, we carry a lot of our stress in our hips and our back. You can do a stretch. You can, put your hands on your back and kind of rub in circles. You can shake your hips back and forth. Even just a gentle sway. Swaying in general is very soothing. And so that's like the physical body, right? But even inside of that, there's that inner child. Your inner child made sense of the world that you lived in. The sense that they made was very likely that what that baby is doing right now is bad and dangerous. So it is no wonder that you're feeling like something is bad and dangerous right now and it needs to stop right away. Part of your reaction is coming from your inner 4-year-old going, you need to stop it. You're going to get us in trouble. You need to stop. It's not just the grown-up that's like, God, this is annoying. Just stop. It's that little kid that is panicking inside of you. So if you need to take a minute, do that. Hold that little child. Sway with your inner child first. Hey. Those are feelings. Feelings are safe now. We are the grown-up. In our house, feelings are okay. Nobody else is going to come in. Nobody else is going to hurt you. Nobody else is going to criticize you or take something from you. It's okay to feel. It's okay that you feel scared right now. This is how we learn. This is a corrective experience. It's okay for her to feel, right? It could also be triggering feelings of nobody would listen to me and nobody was there for me. You know what, baby? That makes sense that that's coming up for you, but we are here for her. No, we're in the other room. We're in the house. She knows where to find us. You're important too. I'm going to sit with you for just another minute. Okay? Breathe with me. I see you. I hear you. I believe you. I love you even when you're freaking out. You're safe now. I'm the grown-up now. You're safe with me. Okay. And as you really connect to that little girl, she starts to loosen up. Right? In this case, we're talking mom and daughter, so we're using girl, but whatever's appropriate for you. As that child is reassured that they're safe in a way that nobody had the capacity to step in and assure them before, they start to learn that feelings are safe. As she starts to learn that feelings are safe, you get to start to learn that feelings are safe. You get to start to pick apart that cognitive distortion that has you convincing yourself to match that panicky energy with all of the reasons why this is not okay. Right? You get to go back in there and rewrite literally those belief systems. Okay. So there's the cognitive. If you're too far gone, cognitive's going to move to the end of the line. That's okay. You might have to come back to it tomorrow. That's totally fine. There's the physical, and there's underneath the physical, that deep emotional inner child. Okay. Now, once you get through, you might need more time to go back and regulate, right? A lot of times our needs kind of get pushed aside and we like withstand the storm and we were their anchor and we did great. And then we're just like drained and exhausted. That makes sense. You just had a huge adrenaline dump. You were faced with a challenge. You rose up and now you're be rubber. Listen to some music, take a nap, do some tapping. Love tapping. Do whatever you need to do. Go walk on the grass, touch the trees, come back into your body where it's actually a safe place to be, right? There's so many more things. I could honestly talk for ages and ages and ages just on this topic because it's so crucial. And it all boils down to the fundamental experience of learning that feelings are safe. It is safe to feel uncomfortable feelings. It is safe to be angry. It is safe to be sad. It is safe to be scared. It's safe to feel overwhelmed. It's safe to feel anxious. It's safe to feel joyous and excited. It's safe to feel loving. It's safe to feel vulnerable, right? They're all safe if we're in the right environment. We're creating that right environment for our children and our inner children. And guess what? That's a messy process. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be done, quote unquote, right every time. Because even in those times when you are like, oh, I just turned into my parent and I don't like it. Fantastic. Because the next thing that you have that is a superpower in relationship is the ability to repair. You screamed at her, you sent her to her room, you slammed the door. Right? Explosion. All that adrenaline just came out. Dang. Not what I had planned. All right. Well, what do I do now? I can wallow in shame and self-pity. Not going to help anything. I can beat myself up and hate myself. Also not going to do anything. Or I can listen to those feelings, because it's also safe to feel shame and guilt, right? Shame is most often coming from your inner critic and is most often dismissible. I am bad. Are you though? Because I think that a bad mother probably wouldn't give a crap about how they treated their kid in any context. More likely you're a good mother and that behavior didn't align with your principles and morals and values and beliefs. In that case, excellent feedback. Thank you. You're right. You can go now. Guilt, the thing I did was bad. Fair judgment. I'm judging in the same way. Message received. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to make it better. You can go now. What does that look like? Calm all the way down. Take as much time as you need. When you are so regulated that you have compassion for that baby again, you see their innocence and their beauty and you want to lift them up. Don't go in there when you're still mad. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to finish your mad process. Once you have that compassion back in your heart, you go to that child. You're like, wow, that was a big one. I don't like how I acted. I screamed at you and I think I really scared you. And some kids will just cry. Some kids will say nothing. Some kids will, get really feisty and be like, yeah, you did. That was bad. All of it's welcome. You're right. It's not nice to yell at people. I shouldn't have done that. This is not the time to tell them, well, you shouldn't have. This is about you and your ownership of your part. They're toddlers and preschoolers. They're years away from being good at this. We don't need to try to make them do this right now. This is about us. We are modeling how to repair in relationship. This is what I did wrong. I imagine this is how you felt about it. I'm very sorry. You don't deserve that. You deserve a safe place to feel all your feelings. And even though I did it in a scary way, the reason I put you in your room is because I could feel myself becoming unsafe. And I didn't want to be unsafe to you. So I'm sorry I scared you. And I'm sorry that I lost my cool and my temper. The next time that I'm feeling like that, I'm going to go in my room and close the door so that I can keep you safe and keep me safe. Okay? And sometimes little kids, 4, 5, 6, they'll be like, well, you got to do deep breaths. You're right. That would be a good idea. And if you're like so far away from deep breathing, like way too angry, do something more active. Go do wall push-ups. Go stomp on the earth. Throw some ice at the concrete. All the things that I do with little kids, you can do them too. Right? But being able to monitor your body, feel where there's tension rising up, feel where those emotions are in your body, listen to the messages they have to send you and release them from your body. Like that process is what you teach by modeling doing that in front of them. My kid is absolutely epically dysregulated. I'm like, all right, I'm going to ground into the earth. You can't see my hands, but I'm keeping them open because it's always my hands to keep my hands open. My feet are on the floor. I can feel my feet. I can feel my heels. I can feel my toes. They're screaming, kicking, whatever. If they're at you, you might have to do like a hug. I'm holding this child. They're so dysregulated. And I'm thinking, better out than in. We're going to get through this. We've gotten through it every time before. I'm safe in my body. I'm not scared of a 6-year-old. We've got this. Feelings are safe. We're going to get through this, right? Because we're way past, like, let's take deep breaths and not be mad right now. We're way past that. Right now, we're just going to ride the wave. And what that does, that's so vital, is that it teaches the brain how to go from dysregulated to regulated again. If we cut off that process through yelling, shame, punishment, rewards, bribes, anything that cuts off that emotional process stunts that emotional growth. It is so important to let them complete the cycle. They're already up here. Don't cut them off. Let them complete it. Finish feeling all of the feelings. And as they watch you handle your feelings in better and better ways, both in context of them and just general life. I just got a bill for $500 I wasn't expecting. I feel a lot of things. Happy is not one of them. I need to regulate my body a little bit. Talk through your processes. I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed by all of the noise. Either we need to turn the TV off or I need to go get some earplugs, right? Just verbalize it so they can see that you're doing it, so they can hear what that even looks like. This is a learning journey, right? Ideally, kids learn emotional maturity all through their childhood until they're 25, 26 years old when their prefrontal cortex has full control. Every single parent that I've ever worked with didn't get that knowledge. So not only are they trying to set their child up better and giving them that knowledge, but they're also teaching themselves, right? That's like being the baseball coach when you've never played baseball. Like you're scrambling, you're trying to stay like one step ahead of these kids. And it won't work every time. That's why we repair. We do not have to be perfect parents. We have to be good enough parents. Good enough has actually been measured as being emotionally attuned, meeting their needs, providing their safety, being really connected with them 1/3 of the time. Bare minimum, 1/3. 50% is like the average good enough parent. Okay, so like there's room for you to lose your shit every once in a while. Doesn't mean you should like it or be like proud that you acted like a crazy person for a second. But be proud of the fact that you recognize that's not in alignment for me. I'm going to proactively do what I need to do so that I do not repeat that exact circumstance next time, so that I have something else to do instead. Be proud of that. We can extract positive from a lot of negative things. We're powerful like that. And then we also get to show our kids what that looks like. We get to show them that you don't have to be perfect at something to keep trying, that you can mess up and you can make it better. Right? There's a lot of value in every single one of these circumstances. And there's so much value in achieving this goal and being able to mostly stay regulated while your kid is melting down. It's the safety you're creating for them. It's the emotional intelligence you're creating for them. It's the empathy and compassion you're teaching them. It is the fact that when they face something big and hard and overwhelming, they're not left on their own to deal with it, thereby possibly turning into stored trauma, because trauma is not what happens to you. It is whether it overwhelms you and nobody's there to help you with it or not. That sentence doesn't totally make sense. If you go through something really overwhelming, but you have a team there to help you process it so that it doesn't actually overwhelm you to the point you can't cope, then it doesn't turn into stored trauma. It could be a difficult event. It could be something that you hated, but you were able to work through it and integrate the experience, make sense of it, and release it. If you're completely overwhelmed and flooded and you've got no anchor and nobody to help you, that's when your body is like, well, we can't really process this, so we'll just store it over here until we're older or have more resources or whatever it is, and maybe we'll be able to process it then. It's doing you a favor, but it's a favor we would rather our children not need, right? We want to be there to process with them. There is not a parent alive who is going to avoid some all emotional upset, right? Kids get upset. Humans get upset. All feelings are okay. So the goal isn't to have kids that never melt down. The goal is to know what to do to feel confident and secure when they're melting down. Just step up to that challenge and be able to support them through that meltdown. And the same logic applies to your own meltdowns, because now you get to step up and be the adult who supports your inner child in the ways that they did not receive. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope it's encouraging to you. If you want more support in emotional regulation, just being able to hold space for your kids' big feelings, You can find me at www.sureparenting.com. We can do one-on-ones if you need privacy. We can also do group if you like that environment. So I look forward to talking to you and helping out. See you later. Bye.